Hey guys, DC here, coming at you with another video. We've been going over the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl leak, which revealed 100 plus new designs from the development of Diamond and Pearl. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a card to the playlist up above. And I wanted to continue going through these scrap designs today, taking a look at some Pokemon that didn't make it into the final Diamond and Pearl. And there's so many of these that we might not be able to get to all of them in today's video, so bear with me here as it's insane how many designs we have. But without further ado, let's get into this. So there is a trio of bird Pokemon that you can see on screen that seems to be a woodpecker line, which is very interesting because a woodpecker line was eventually revisited in Generation 7 being Sun and Moon. We have the first stage of this line being Sutsukuma here, and to me it kind of looks like a seed bird Pokemon more than a woodpecker Pokemon. I could see this being maybe a grass flying type, but it evolves into Maiko, which is very clearly a woodpecker stork kind of Pokemon. And interestingly enough, we end up getting a stork Pokemon in Bombardier in Generation 8. So again, something that was later revisited here. And then it evolves into whatever this thing is. I can't make it out from this image. Next up here, we have a cricket two-stage line with these two crickets here. I'd have to imagine that these were before Kricketot and Kricketune. Maybe they always wanted to have a cricket line of Pokemon in Gen 4 and they were designing different variations of it. And these two ended up getting scrapped in favor of going for Kricketot and Kricketune in the final version of Diamond and Pearl. Next up, we have a yellow Pikachu looking clone that may have been the precursor to Shinx, because you can see it shares a lot of Shinx's design here with the black tail with the star at the end of it. And even the color of this Pokemon is the same color as Shinx's shiny. So maybe this was originally supposed to be Shinx or the Pikachu clone for this generation. Who knows? Next up, we have a really interesting one to me, and that is this Sphinx Pokemon. This one's so interesting because immediately when I saw it in the video going over all these documents that was posted online, the documentary itself, I immediately thought it was an Eeveelution. And there's no confirmation of that being the case, but still looking at this thing, it looks like it could be an Eeveelution to me. Like, I'm very torn on it because I could see it going either way. I could see this being a standalone brand new Sphinx Pokemon, or I could see this being a ground type Eeveelution. In my own headcanon, I'm going to go with the latter because I think that would have been really cool. And I think it's plausible that that may actually be the case because we did see Generation 4 introduce two brand new Eeveelutions in Leafeon and Glaceon respectively. So maybe there was originally supposed to be Groundion or whatever you want to call this Sphinx-like Pokemon that was meant to be another Eeveelution. Next up, we have this electric mouse looking thing. It kind of reminds me of Ditto in a way, but maybe this was also an early Pikachu clone that was scrapped. As you can see, it has the round circles on its face like Pikachu and every other Pikachu clone does. Next up, we have Fineon and Luminion, which were apparently either versions of the Pokemon originally or counterparts to them that got scrapped in favor of them. The Fineon counterpart is really hard to make out. You can see it's a fish, but other than that, we can't see any details. But the Luminion one looks really interesting to me because honestly, I could see this being an evolution to Luminion that just got scrapped. Maybe the Fineon line was originally supposed to be a 3-stage line, and this was the Luminion evolution. But you can see here that the little fish at the bottom actually, or to the left, I should say, is pointing over to this. So maybe this was originally the Fineon Luminion line and they scrapped this in favor of the designs that we got. Who knows? Next up, we have what they're describing here as a ray. And I forgot to mention earlier in the video, but shout out to Lutu and the person who bought this DVD for compiling all this together because this is all coming from them. But we have Lutu describing this as Ray 1 and Ray 2. I personally don't see this as being a ray. In my opinion, this looks like a kite Pokemon, this first one here, because you can see there's a person holding onto the tail, or maybe even an umbrella. Honestly, it doesn't really look like a ray to me. And then Ray 2, to be honest with you, looks like the first stage Pokemon. So I think this is backwards here. I would say this black one is stage 1, and then stage 2 is the one that looks like a kite umbrella type thing. Next up, we have a very intriguing 2-stage line in a sandcastle 2-stage line. And the reason why this is so fascinating is because obviously this Pokemon didn't make it into Diamond and Pearl, but we ended up getting sandcastle Pokemon in Pokemon Sun and Moon in Generation 7, a whopping 10 years later when Sandy Gast and Palossand made their way into Sun and Moon. So it's fascinating to see that we had two sandcastle Pokemon here that were thought up for Diamond and Pearl that got scrapped. The one interesting thing I'll say about this for the second stage, looking at its design, is you can see sand coming out of the holes on its body, which I wonder if this was originally planned to be instead of Hippopotamus and Hippowdon, and they wanted to do a ground sand Pokemon. And initially they conceptualized it as a sandcastle, but scrapped it in favor of Hippopotamus and Hippowdon, as we know we got in in the final Diamond and Pearl, but I'm not in love with these designs here, but it's fascinating to see that 10 years before Palo Sand and Sandy Geist came out, we had a version of them in Diamond and Pearl that were scrapped. Another fascinating one is a Saber-tooth tiger icicle Pokemon, which is very clearly Chow Pen, a whopping, what, 15 or 16 years before it debuted in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. That is crazy that we had an icicle saber-tooth tiger conceptualized in Diamond and Pearl that didn't come to life until Generation 9, 5 generations after Diamond and Pearl. That just goes to show you and why I think it's so cool seeing these scrap Pokemon, because number one, it's cool to see more scrap Pokemon designs, but also two, it's really cool to look at these because you don't know which Pokemon in these leaks, you don't know which scrap Pokemon will get revisited at what time. Like, we have rumors of a Pokemon from Generation 2 scrap beta coming to life in Pokemon Winds and Waves. I'll leave a card up above to that video if you don't know what I'm talking about. Next up, we have a trio of plant lion Pokemon, this base one, this mid-stage one, and then the final stage. I'm not a huge fan of these conceptually personally, but I do find it fascinating for a couple of reasons. Number one, lions are obviously a member of the cat family, and we ended up getting a grass starter in Gen 9 in Sprigatito to Florigato to Meowscarada, which is a plant cat. So it's interesting to see that conceptually they were thinking of a plant cat lion Pokemon back in Generation 4. Even I would say Stage 2 looks a lot like Florigato to me. I'm just saying here, but Stage 1 to me looks like a baby version of Persian, just with grass on it, which is kind of weird, or leaves, I should say. And the third stage, I don't know, reminds me more of a Yu-Gi-Oh than a Pokemon. Like, I'm not a huge fan of this design here, if I'm being honest. Next up, we have a Mollusk Pokemon, which had a few variations to its design. It's a 3-stage line, and you can see the first stage variations, the second stage variation, and then the variations to the third stage. Let's just focus on the final version of them here. I'm not a huge fan of this line. Like, you can see the first stage is like this baby Pokemon with a shell on its head, then it evolves into a larger version of that Pokemon with 2 shells on its head now, and then it evolves into a bigger one, which is kind of like maybe a ground water type, or maybe a ground steel type with steel water, something of the sorts. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, it's not the worst Pokemon design that we have here. I think if they adapted this a little bit more and worked on it, maybe it could have made its way into the final version of Diamond and Pearl, but I think these are probably for the better that they got scrapped. Next up, we have a duo of Pokemon I'm going to lump together here, a white goat and a black goat. I can't make out the white goat, it's too hard for me to see, but the black goat you could very clearly see was probably going to be a fire ghost type, and I'm not in love with its design here. I think it conceptually being a fire ghost goat Pokemon is pretty cool, or maybe fire and dark, but I think they probably needed to let this one cook in the oven a bit more, no pun intended, and adapt its design even further to make it cooler, because I think it's kind of basic looking here. Next up, we have 2 Pokemon here that have names attached to them actually, in Mollusk and Harmony, and very clearly these are music-based plant Pokemon. I think Harmony looks really cool, and I actually like its design a lot and think this could have been a Pokemon, and quite frankly, I'm a bit surprised that it was scrapped. The only thing I could think of is maybe the second stage here, Harmony, maybe they thought it was too similar to Blossom or Roserade's line, and it would make sense given that Roserade did debut in Diamond and Pearl alongside Badoo as pre-evolutions and evolutions to Roselia respectively. Maybe they thought this line was too similar to introduce in the same game, but I think design-wise, these look really good and could have easily made their way into Diamond and Pearl. Anyways, those are going to be the last 2 designs that we look at here today. Stay tuned for a part 2 where we go over the rest of the designs that are a part of this leak, because there are some really cool ones, but let me know down in the comment section below what you think about all the designs that we went over today. Are there any that stand out to you that you wish made it into the final version of Diamond and Pearl, or are you happy that all of these were scrapped? And are you as fascinated as I am to see that originally Palo Sand and Sandy Geist dated back to Diamond and Pearl with these sandcastle Pokemon? Same thing with Chow Pen, dating back all the way to Diamond and Pearl, amongst some other scrap designs here that are very reminiscent of other Pokemon like the Shinx precursor and even the Sphinx Pokemon that to me looks like a ground type Eeveelution. Do you agree with me that that was probably meant to be an Eeveelution, or do you disagree and think it's a different Pokemon unrelated to Eevee? Let me know down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from Trainer DC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.